Good afternoon, young warriors. My mission, my objective, is to invite young men, young women, young warriors to discover personal excellence through the construction of the traits that have stood the test of time: honor, integrity, compassion, resilience, character. Because it's my belief that any success that you desire will be attracted to you by the person you become. Young warriors, last time we talked about disciplining your disappointments. I can't even begin to express how large that is, to be able to navigate through adversity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell a story about a man who he wrote about when he was in high school. And I'm going to tell it, but I'm also going to say how it plays into what I talked about the last time with the making of Jaws with Steven Spielberg. The man wrote that when he was a freshman, sophomore, and junior in high school, he went to an academy out in Long Island, New York, 2,000 miles away from his house. And he ran both. He ran cross country in the fall and then track in the spring. He did it his freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and it was very taxing, especially the cross country. The coach he demanded excellence. In fact, it was even said that the meets were a break from the practices. That's how grueling they were. So this man talks about how after he completed his junior year, and he decided he didn't want to come back and run cross country. So rather than disrupt the coach there, he thought it'd be best if he just wrote him a letter and mailed it to him while he was on summer vacation. So he typed a letter kind of explaining the reasons why he didn't want to do it, but he almost made them sound like benefits, like it was something that was going to be a benefit to him. Truth of the matter was, he started to take an interest in girls and he wanted to have more free time. He mails the letter out. 10 days later, he gets a return letter from Coach. And he described it was multiple pages, front and back, single space. Coach had a lot to say. But in essence, what the coach did say, he says, Gordon, he says, I got your letter. And I understand you see the benefits in not participating with cross country. He says, but you're missing 3. Let me help. He says, number 1, what you're doing is you'll be letting down your teammates, the young men who have trained hard to compete with you at this high level. Number 2, you'll be letting down supporters, the boosters, teachers, anybody that sacrifices their time to make that season possible. And now all of a sudden, now you let them down. And he says, third and most importantly, he says, young man, what you're doing is you're reinforcing the trait that whenever life leans in and gets hard on you, you're going to quit. That's a tough lesson for all of us to learn. I've quit. But what I want to do is I want to take this in. Now, you got to understand, I'm reading this from an 80-year-old man who wrote this over 60 years ago, or who experienced this over 60 years ago, but now he's got 60 years of perspective, of walking his path, of wisdom. And this is how I think it applies. And I talked about it last week with Spielberg making Jaws. Now we hear about Jaws and we think it's this unbelievably great movie, and it was. But what we don't understand is Spielberg, this was his first film, and he was dead set. This was going to be his career. So out in California, he had the luxury of testing and building and constructing this shark, Bruce. It was named after his attorney. And it worked flawlessly. in this freshwater pool out in California. But now they transport it out to New York where they're going to be shooting. And they put it in the Atlantic Ocean, which is not freshwater. And the salt, they didn't take this into consideration. Just caused the shark to malfunction. Spielberg had a major problem. Now, this may not seem like a big deal. You know, some of the guys there, they didn't have much skin in the game, but Spielberg did. Why am I thinking that Spielberg learned this lesson that Gordon talked about from his coach? Why am I guessing that Spielberg just refused to quit when things got tough? Because he persevered and he saw this movie through. What he did was he figured there's got to be a solution. There's got to be a solution. He took a page out of Alfred Hitchcock and he just figured out less is more, less is more. If you ever notice when you watch Jaws, you don't see the shark until after almost an hour and a half, over 80 minutes before you see the shark. Because of hardship, what Spielberg did was he did less is more, and he presented like the feeling that we knew the shark was there, we just didn't see it. We heard the music, we couldn't see below the waterline. And that's what drove everybody into the theater to make this one of the top grossing movies of all time. Steven Spielberg, I'm sure he's got some talent. He's got some genius in him. But I'll tell you what I think is at the top of the recipe. It's persistence. It's persistence to be able to navigate and slay the dragons. Young warriors, I'm going to read. I've got 2 quotes. I want to read these, and then I'm going to challenge you and send you on your way. The first quote is by Calvin Coolidge, the 30th President of the United States. And he said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful people with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, 'Press on,' has solved and will always solve the problems of the human race." And then here's the last quote. "It's your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines how your life story will develop." That was by the German aviator and airline executive Dieter Uchtdorf. The ability to persist. Young warriors, I said this last time. You can Google knowledge, you can Google answers, but you can't Google guts. Is it important? Yes, it's that important. Again, Steven Spielberg, I'm sure he's got some talent, I'm sure he's got some genius, but his key is his persistence, refusing to quit. And that's something that we all got control over. We've got the vote to cast. It's us. It's up to us. And I said earlier, you know what? I've quit. I'm not proud of the fact that I've quit. But by disciplining that, I've hopefully learned much more of value, of benefit. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to close with this. By persisting, what you do is you elevate your worth. Now you bring more value to your pursuits. See, without persistence, it's almost like you just, what am I going to do with my life? I live my life. And I kind of think about it like, that'd be like me asking Picasso to come and paint my hen house. But when you persist and you take ownership and you pursue excellence, now all of a sudden you develop the attitude, the fierceness, that now all of a sudden Instead of living a life, now what you do is you decide, how am I going to spend these moments in history? And when you take that kind of an attitude, now you've got Picasso and Van Gogh wanting to kick down your door, fighting over who's going to paint your masterpiece. Young warriors, you know what? I don't care if you've quit anything. You know what? Join the club. We've all quit. Everybody has. Everybody's quit. But as I've demonstrated here, you know, like 2 videos ago or 3 videos ago, talking about the timeline with the penny doubled every day, guess what? Day 1 can start any time. Make it now. Press on. Young warriors, I want to challenge you to go out, and I want you to, I want you to slay these dragons. I want you to expect them. They're a given. I'm not going to downplay them. I'm not going to give them permission to dominate me. Slay the dragons. I'm out.